lot of times people think about mental health and schools when there's been a school shooting. And people say, well, it's either guns or it's mental health. And it's probably everything. But if you think about the possible interventions along the way for any kid that would
turn into something like that.
Yeah. Like what responsibility is that of the schools, and what are all the,
That's a tough question. I think that's part of the problem about that whole issue is we don't really know. I mean, there's no great answers, because I feel like if there was a great answer, we'd have figured it out by now.
Hi, this is Sally Nelson with Nebraska Loves Public Schools. How are you?
I'm doing well. What can I help you with?
One of the things that we found is that people don't understand what happens in a counselor's office on a regular basis. We're trying to capture that so people can see what you do and the kinds of things that students bring to you every day.
Whatever we can do to help, I'd be more than happy to.
Great. Well, let's maybe look at some dates.
My name is Eric Depew, and I'm a school social worker with Miller North Middle School in their counseling department.
You're going to go article by article.
If a kid goes to public school, we as educators and as social workers and as teachers are tasked with educating the child. And I'm sorry, but a kid who has trauma and has been in a terrible situation, I mean, I can give you story after story of kids who walk in my office and because the teacher's upset with them and send them out because they're messing around, they're goofing off, or they're not prepared, or their homework's not complete. But, well, guess what happened at home last night? And those are things that are out of our control.
Hey, buddy, how are you? Oh, come here.
Imagine your life is a track and your end goal is to graduate and to get an education. Well, most kids don't have a lot of barriers, don't have a lot of obstacles. I deal with the kids who have a freaking moat across the thing and they have to somehow figure out how to get across there to get even an education where they can graduate someday. And so that's how I look sometimes is to explain to kids is I'm here to help you remove those barriers or to go around or find a unique way to get through life so you can get an education. Because ultimately, that's why we're here. Absolutely, is to teach them. But I'm sorry, I see it at first-hand basis, day after day after day, there are kids who are unable to sit in math class and learn a formula when something terrible happened to them, or they have a mental health issue, or they're suicidal. It's not gonna happen. It's not.
Friday or Monday, we'll see what Carl says.
Yeah, the afternoon of the 31st or... I'll email Carl and see.
Yep.
You go track down G. Last time he was seen was the boys' bathroom.
Okay.
Something
like
went to
that.
the bathroom, and so I went.
Then he tried to come back in?
Well, then he went back to class and said, "No, you're in the office." And he goes, "I can lock myself." And I said, "No, you can't." And he sat back down and refused to.
Okay. Here, I'll give you a little more privacy. I'll let you sit in here for a few minutes, calm down, okay? What's going on? What happened?
I was grabbing my homework because I didn't have it. I know that's my fault. And then I was just grabbing my homework because I had to pass it on to Nicole. Right back to class. And then she gets mad at me. She's like, "We're going to the office," but I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just grabbing my homework.
Okay. So I'll just tell you what she told me, because I wasn't there. I didn't see what happened, and I obviously am not an expert on that, but She said that you, I don't know if she found you or saw you down. Maybe you were going to get your stuff in your locker and you were talking to a girl or talking to somebody.
No, she just said hi.
Okay, so whatever, you said hi, and then when you went back to class, it's my understanding that you got frustrated, Miss Dickey.
I didn't even say anything to Miss Dickey when I went
Okay.
back to class.
I'm sure that you got really frustrated with her. Once you kind of see red and you're really angry, it's hard to like backtrack and stop yourself, right?
Sometimes when I get frustrated, like people can tell that I'm frustrated. Like anyone, even if they don't know me, when people know that, just stay away from me. Because if I'm frustrated, I'll yell at you or something. Like without meaning anything I say.
Just kind of get hot. But that's the hard thing about being a teacher though. So like Miss Dickey, like she can't just leave you alone. Her job does not allow her to say, well, he's upset, so I'm going to just not at all interact with him. To a certain degree, like we encourage teachers, hey, man, give him some space, right? Let you calm down. But in a room when you have 25 kids in there and she's trying to do things or whatever, like she can't always just let it go,
It's like that. Remember, it's going to be at your own pace if we don't get completely.
You said you wanted to have a good day. I want you to have a good day too. Hey, Mrs. Toma.
I'm on my way over to your office.
Perfect. So I would suggest if she gives you a consequence, just do your best to kind of accept it and not make it a bigger deal,
All right, so then tonight and tomorrow you need to stay for your after-school detentions.
Do you want to call Mom or?
Let's call Mom.
We actually had a really good conversation, and I'm sure the email explained what his consequence was, but he and I, once he calmed down, we had a really good conversation.
So you're talking about like a kid who over time we have observed and we have collected data on maybe how many times he's been sent to the office or how many times he's been disruptive in class or, et cetera, et cetera. And we decide that this is a student who rises above the threshold of what's normal, maybe, and they need additional supports to help with that issue. And so we might get Taryn, our school psych, involved, and she might say, hey, this kid's got a behavior issue. Or like, we need to put services in place to ameliorate those problems.
I think for a lot of those at-risk kids, we are the one constant where they can go where people are going to care for them and people are going to ask them how their day was, and they're going to get a hot meal and they're going to learn a thing or two. And even more so when the schools identify, hey, we're worried about this student for whatever reason, that we can address it with different services.
Thank you all for being here this morning. We're going to talk about some old business from the last agenda.
My name is Bill Jelkin. I'm the Director of Student Services for Millard Public Schools. I oversee counseling, social work, school nursing, enrollment, school security, and discipline.
The conversations that I have with students is beneficial.
Mental health in the school setting is unique. Oftentimes, kids come to us with a whole host of other problems, whether they've experienced trauma in their life, whether they're experiencing peer frustrations, anxiety, depression, all of those things. And as an educational institution, our number one goal is to obviously educate them, but we have to have them ready to learn. And in some cases, all of those other issues are standing in the way of the education.
I was thinking though, like more, what is the family dynamics?
Right.
What is the demographic of that?
I think there's a lot of trauma and there's a lot of, baggage that we do with a lot of the kids that we have. I mean, I can't think of very many kids, and that's part of the problem is we have these kids who we don't solve for necessarily at home. I think if you were to go in the community and ask, tell me about Millard, they would say Millard is historically an affluent district. West Omaha, the rich kids.
The 10 social workers that we have, their job description and their job focus has changed dramatically over the time that I've been in this position because we've been preparing for a different type of student in Millard.
We're getting a lot more kids from different backgrounds and different cultures and different religions and different languages and refugees.
We understand the challenges that some families are going to start to bring to us. The goal in my office was to have structures in place and have systems in place to help address those. Those systems need to accommodate for academic failure, they need to accommodate for behavior issues, and the basic needs of kids. Some of the steps we've taken in Millard is, we've partnered with Connections here at Project Harmony to have a direct line referral source for our K through 8 students to get immediate mental health assistance.
I had a counselor email me yesterday regarding a student, and I believe it would be an appropriate referral for Connections because this student, her mom recently lost a baby. And the student had been talking a lot about her mom's pregnancy, and the parent has lost the baby. And in addition to the mother losing the baby, the student is not able to have a relationship with her dad because he's in prison. So there's a lot of dynamics there. She's an only child in the home. This mom works part-time. She doesn't have a lot of resources available to her.
Are you thinking of individual therapy or group?
Well, I think with this particular student, we'd start with individual.
Connections is this amazing program. When I have a kid who I'm really worried about for whatever reason, I think they benefit from counseling or therapy in the community, but there's barriers. Those barriers might be mom and dad work at night, or they don't have all the financial means to provide for the therapy, or maybe parents are on board, but they don't have a ride after school to get to therapy. And so what I do is I get parental consent, which allows me to communicate with Connections, and then I fill out a form, a referral form with my concerns.
My name is Deb Anderson Pappas, and I'm the Senior Director of Early Intervention and Training at Project Harmony. What we know is 60% of all kids, 0 to 18, are exposed to some sort of violence every year. The violence that we talk about ranges from seeing violence in their community. It could be bullying in the school. It could be domestic violence at home. It could be that they are themselves victims of abuse or neglect at home. We also know that 20% of children who are diagnosed with a mental health problem don't get services. The most common diagnoses are ADHD, depression, anxiety, and conduct disorder. So those are some of the diagnoses we see where children need assistance and they're not getting the help that they need. I think the concern that we hear, and we hear it a lot, is do we want to label a child with a mental illness and give them a diagnosis that they then carry with them all the way through the rest of their lives potentially?
So I'm not going to use her name, but I'll talk about a student. The deck's kind of stacked against her in a sense. Dad is in the picture, but not really in the picture. Current stepfather's an alcoholic. There's a lot of kids at the home. Just a wonderful, wonderful kid. It pains me to see kids have to work so hard to deal with stuff that they're innocent. They're 12, 13-year-old kids. Like, why I have to deal with that? And that's hard for me sometimes because I never had to deal with the adversity that some of these kids go through.
You guys have lived a pretty complicated, you've had some complications through, with family stuff and from Fremont to moving here and mom and all those things.
Yeah.
And it's pretty remarkable how resilient you guys are because you deal with stuff that most, I never had to worry about stuff like that, and you come to school, you still have a good attitude, you still are fun and keep yourself out of trouble.
I mean,
most of the time.
there's some days where my depression is on the top and I'll just be not okay. I won't even try to get ready.
I know you missed a lot of school this year.
Yeah.
How does it affect her grades?
Well, when her grades aren't good, and she's capable, but when you don't have the structure or the importance level of academics to different for different families, and for some families, you know, maybe getting your homework done is not a priority at home. Or maybe that's not even talked about. You get home and it's survival mode, or you get home and it's, hey, you got to take care of your little sibling so I can go to work. There's a lot of different things. That's kind of some of the things that she does. She doesn't have a lot of like parental motivation to say, get your stuff done.
Yeah, what we're talking about is every fall during Suicide Awareness Month, we require all of our counselors to talk to every kid. And so they usually put them in a group and they give a presentation about suicide and depression. They administer a 3-question screener. And if a student answers in a positive manner on that screener, then it flags them. And then they have to have an individual conversation with the counselor.
Majority of them, at least at my middle school level, it's kids who don't understand what depression is, suicidal thinking, they're worried about someone else. But the kids who are really, you know, severely struggling with something, then yeah, we refer them to Connections or to the private counselor or to, you know, a manual in certain cases and stuff like that.
You say the words mental health, and I think a lot of people hear mental illness. How do you define mental health in your job, in your school?
It's a tough question. I'm a strong believer that each and every person at some point in their life would probably benefit from some kind of talk therapy. But we live in a society where mental health, mental illness is misunderstood.
When we start using the terminology mental illness, everybody gets nervous about that, especially when we start talking about children. And I think that there is a perception that mental illness means there is something seriously wrong, that it's pervasive, it's severe, this person maybe is not functioning. And we need to, I think that's part of the stigma around this whole issue of mental health and mental illness. All of us have traumatic events that we go through. We should just expect that that's a normal part of living, is that we're going to go through difficult times, and we all may need therapy at one point or another. But we don't always just need therapy. It could be something else. For some people, yoga gets them through a difficult time. For some people, it's church that gets them through a difficult time. So it doesn't always have to be therapy as the be-all, end-all, but it should be one of the things that we consider in the toolbox of helping people to be healthy.
Mental health training for certificated staff. So last year, that issue was brought to my attention numerous times. Teachers saying, we need more training so we know how to handle these types of kids in our classroom.
Carrie Starnes. I teach 6th grade English for Millard North Middle School.
So when you hear the term mental health, what does that conjure for you?
Well, to me, what I picture is when you have good mental health, that means that you are able to thrive in a classroom and in school. But if you have poor mental health or you have some struggles with it, then you're going to hit some obstacles, but then it's all different for every kid. And so as a teacher, you have to be able to pick up on that and know how to try to deal with it.
Remember, what did we notice about the little people activity? When we look up there, Colin, they're all different. Why is that important? Because we talked about this. Maddie. Because no one's the same. Is that good or is that bad?
What are the biggest obstacles that your profession faces in trying to teach all kids and help the ones in particular that need the most help?
I think that building relationships is probably the big thing. When kids tend to respect you more, kids will listen to you more if you have a relationship with them. It doesn't mean that they have to love you.
Do you like Sam?
Right. They just know, oh, she knows who I am.
You want to keep it, yeah. You keep it, honey. And then you want to color it and bring it back to me tomorrow. And the people are just doing it like this. That way when we post it, it looks pretty. Pretty just like you.
I feel like we all have baggage. Like we come in, I have baggage. So when they come in, and I say this from the get-go, is we do activities to help build us together as a family. So if you see, I have my little people on the right, that's them. And then we always look back at that and say, look at us, we're all different, but we're all in it together. And then we look, we share experiences, I share experiences. So I build a trust in here so that if they want to come in here and I'm not tooting my own horn, but when the end of class, they're like, I don't want to go. So I feel like I try to make it a safe environment for all, not just keeping in mind that there's probably 5 kiddos who have really bad stuff going on. So I make it a good environment for all so everybody's happy and they feel safe. It's like a mom of the classroom, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Number 3, have you done number 3 yet?
This is
Oh, 3, right there.
starts here.
Good. Man, good job, dude.
I have a lot of work, but I don't think you can.
One of the things that has helped with stigma is the ACEs study. ACEs is the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study that started in California in the 80s. It was developed by Kaiser Permanente Hospital, looking at what are some of the adverse childhood experiences that adults had had that have led them to cope in a number of ways. And weight gain is one, and tobacco use and substance use and a number of other problems, including cancer and diabetes and things like that, can happen. So the 10 adverse childhood experiences that they focused on, 5 are related to childhood, 5 are related to household dysfunction. The 5 childhood ones are abuse and neglect. So physical abuse, physical neglect, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and emotional neglect would be those 5. And then on the household side, it's things like parents' mental illness, parents' substance abuse, loss of a parent, incarceration of a parent, and domestic violence in the family. What we see in our mental health program is that it's those household dysfunction things that are leading kids to have problems with behavior in schools that lead the schools to call us and want a referral.
Good morning, Mustangs. We need the following students to the counseling office. Destiny.
I've moved a lot. I've been to 7 different schools. I've been
to 7 different schools. What have you ever really, truly got to build relationships?
They're always moving. So from district to district, to place. She came here late this last year, late into the year, so she didn't know anybody.
It's not normal. One day I'm in Colorado, next day I'm with my grandma, next day I'm with my mom, one day I'm in Colorado with my mom, my grandma, back and forth.
She just had a lot of things that she's dealt with and a lot of chaotic things happening in her home. Mom's often gone, either late at night working, or she's out with friends or at her boyfriend's house or whatever, and she and her younger brother were at home by themselves.
And that's what my mom said. I love you very, very much, Mom. I want you to know that. But you're always gone. We never hang out. I want you to be happy in going over to his house every now and then. It's fine. But they're like a drug, Mom. They take you away from your family, and you drink when you're with them. You're going to end up in jail, and if you don't stop going over there every night. And there's not going to be anything anybody can do about it, Mom. It's your actions, it's your choice. Just like you told me when we got kicked out of the apartment. Your choices affect not only you, but the people who love and care about you. And this is hard to say, but by the time I'm 13 years old, I will not even want to speak to you. And if you keep these actions up, you don't come home at night, Grandma is gonna kick you out. Wait, there's more.
What time did you send these?
It doesn't say. It's 4:15.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Grandma's gonna kick you out. And you're going to lose your job if you keep being late. I have priorities in my life. like my brother, okay? He's my rock, Mom. No matter how many fights we get into, that's my best friend. I just want you to think about how bad you're hurting us. And to be honest, Mom, it seems like your only priority is boys, vodka, and money. Not kids, not family, just having fun and partying. You shouldn't have had kids if it was going to be like this. I know I'm only 12, but I have seen a lot more than everybody thinks I have, okay? I have been through a lot, Mom. You don't understand. But love you, good night, or good morning. I don't really know at this point.
She responded.
What, no? Well, no, I mean, she responded, but she was like, call me, babe. I was in school. It was 8:02. She's like, call me when you call me, okay? I love you.
This morning?
Yeah, she said, call me, love you. And I was like, Mom, you have to understand, I'm in school. Like, and I didn't even get to see her this morning.
At first, it's kind of like, wow, she's a handful. She's gonna be one of those not rough, but like difficult kids where you work with. At one point, we were in the administrator's office and she received detention for something that she should have gotten a lot more. And she was throwing books and screaming, and the only person she listened to was me. And she came in here and I sat her down and I said, you need some time to cool off. After she cooled down, we went for a walk, and as we were talking, she just broke down and opened up about what she deals with. You know, Dad's in prison, basically barely ever sees her. Mom has a lot of problems. And as I got to know her, as just this beautiful person who just needed somebody to sit there and listen and care. And I'm not saying her mom didn't care, but I think there's times when maybe parents don't give what they need, or they don't know how to give what they need, or I'm not sure, but I might be one of the few people who understand or try to understand what she's going through. So we'll see. I don't know, it's just really eye-opening when you get to know somebody. And we don't always take the time as educators, or have the time, quite frankly, to know each and every kid in that level. Because most of them are, okay, yes ma'am, yes sir, I'll do what you need me to do. But the ones that are really difficult, and the ones that oftentimes get sent out of the to the principal's office, are the ones that maybe don't have the tools and they don't have the skills to do what we're asking them to do.
If you could wave a magic wand and make everything great, what would you want to do with it?
You see it on Facebook all the time. We're not just a teacher, we're a counselor, we're a parent, we're all these different roles, and we need help. I mean, that's what we need help from. We need to build a system where we could just all be there just for the kids. And I wish somebody could come here and do this just do it one day, so they could see why we should have more help, with kids that need more help.
Schools are a constant in families' lives. Schools are a constant in kids' lives. And so we don't really mind having to tackle some of these issues. But to tackle these issues and to have the staff available to tackle some of these issues, there has to be appropriate support.
If I can help a kid, if I can have a kid know that there's one person who cares and will listen and will be there for him or her, that fills my bucket. That's what I do this for.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
I should probably get going, and you should probably get back to class. If scary, unsafe things are happening to you at home, you need to tell me. Okay? So whether
I'm good now. I live with my grandma. My grandma and my mom.
I know, but you've also lived with your grandma for a little bit in the past, and then you move out again. So you need to tell me. Okay?
But now there's nowhere else for us to live, so.
I know that. So if bad things are happening, if whatever, please come tell me. And not like 3 weeks later, but like the next day. Okay? You good?
I want to go back to class.
I know you don't.